The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, is reiterating calls for protecting children in Solomon Islands, which has one of the highest rates of violence against children in the world. Taking just one statistic as an example, the chief of UNICEF Solomon Islands Field Officer, Zelalem Tafes, says 37% of girls in the country experience sexual violence before the age of 15. Koroi Hawkins asked Mr. Tafes about the challenges to protecting children's rights in Solomon Islands.
Thank you for Corey for that question. Violence against children, and I want to frame it from the perspective of violence in the broader sense, is a significant problem for our region and in Solomon Islands. There's a significant percentage of children that grow up with experiencing violence on a personal level, but also experiencing it within the family situation. And growing up with it, and violence, when children grow up with violence around them, it tends to embed a culture of continuity, intergenerational violence continuity. So there is a significant need to cut the cycle, if you like, of violence that happens against children. And this happens across multiple sectors in various forms. Sexual and gender-based violence, sexual violence against children is prevalent. You've got violence, severe disciplinary measures that create damages to children, both physically and psychologically. They happen. In the broader sense, also deprivation is a form of violence that we consider, and making sure that their rights are met, whether it is in terms of basic services, of healthcare, education, nutrition, and the nurturing, loving care that they should be accessed in the home and in the community.
And how prevalent are some of these things that you've mentioned in Solomon Islands?
Okay, so I'm going to give you one of the more brazen statistics, and 37% of girls experience sexual violence before the age of 15, and that's a significant percentage. And more than 85% of children experience severe discipline, severe physical punishment and discipline in the home on a regular basis.
How does that compare to regionally and to the global picture?
This is regionally and globally. This is actually one of the highest, and it's a significantly higher rates in our systems. So across the Pacific and globally, this is a significant percentage of children that are experiencing violence. Is much higher than the average globally.
What is being done to address this? And I guess is it even illegal in Solomon Islands to discipline children?
Very good. Thank you. It's not so much about discipline, and it's very important to draw the comparison here. And we're not talking about preventing discipline. We're talking about abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse. And on the legal front, Solomon Islands has done remarkably well in the last few years in passing the Child and Family Welfare Act, which tries to address issues related to violence against children, and addressing violence against children and ending the violence against children is a multi-sectoral approach. It's not a one size fits all, and it requires a whole of society approach across board, because you do need to have multiple actors in society, within the civil service, from government structures, from communities, from civil society, and then, of course, communities and parents acting in concert to make sure that it ends. So on the legal front, significant changes have happened in the last few years. The Child and Family Welfare Act came into play in 2017, and its legislative instrument and its gazetting happened in September 2022. And the arms of the government that should be providing that service are getting in line and trying to work together to get on the ball in ending violence against children. But it is a difficult task that requires engagement and investment in human resources, in logistics, and in also engaging with communities for both prevention and response activities.
Speaking to that, I understand you've just completed a training in relation to this, but also tell us a bit more about the role UNICEF plays in this multi-sectoral approach.
Thank you, Corey. UNICEF plays a significant part in the preparation and response. We've been working with all our partners across board towards the build-up where before the law was passed and post the law in supporting the implementation of it. And the part of the cycle of services to end violence against children that UNICEF has been working specifically with is the Social Welfare Division. And the Social Welfare Division is empowered by law to provide those services for children. But as a service itself, the Social Welfare Division, which sits within the Ministry of Health and Medical Services in Solomon Islands, is relatively speaking poorly stocked in terms of human resources. They have very few people who have to cater to the whole country. They also have significant challenges in terms of the operational component, really, the being able to get out to the communities to respond to calls. And I'll give you a good example. And there have been times where, a child that was abused in one of the provinces in Outer Islands, the social welfare officers found it extremely difficult to get out there because the funding is not available. And so getting the flights out or the boats out there, and once they're out in the provinces, making sure they have access to the community, to the child, in a comprehensive manner together with police and healthcare service providers has proven extremely challenging. And UNICEF has been supporting that, both in terms of providing some funding for these components, but also in providing training, capacity building for the social welfare officers in case management. And which brings me to the actual training that you just referred to that we completed, was designed to address skill sets and enhance the skill sets of social welfare officers in Solomon Islands on how to engage with case management when a case comes up. In other words, when a child is abused and there's a report that comes through any of the chains, whether it's through the healthcare system or through the police, social welfare officers are required to respond in a professional manner. And UNICEF has been providing training on those components, including helping to create a full understanding for a referral pathway from communities to the care providers.